Dear brothers and sisters, I wish to welcome each and every one of you to the 29th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Today, I basically titled my reflection, The Correction and the Reaction. Now, you know that before the passage we have today, that Jesus cleansed the temple in chapter 21. After he cleansed the temple, the Jewish people questioned his authority. Why did he do that? Of course, in the back of their mind, they already know that it is only the Messiah who is expected to purify the temple. So they were so surprised that this is a young man who came from a humble background and he was doing that. So already they were thinking that he may be the Messiah. But they refused to accept him because of his background. Now, after this questioning of his authority, Jesus gave them three parables. You remember the parable of the two sons, the parable of the wicked tenants, and you remember the parable of the wedding feast. In these three parables, Jesus basically indicted the Orthodox Jews, which means that Jesus confronted them with what they were doing and he gave a sort of judgment, or he really preempted what may happen to them based on the fact that they will be rejected. And you know, people don't like to hear about this kind of thing, that they will be punished for what they have done. So because Jesus confronted them with the truth, you know, truth is bitter. So, because Jesus confronted them with the truth, that's why they decided to team up with their enemies. You can imagine the Pharisees and the Herodians coming together just to destroy one man. This happens even among us today, that it is difficult for us to accept correction. We always like to resist. We like to resist whenever we are corrected. And that's what we see in the gospel today. The question about the tax is basically a sort of retaliation, a sort of revenge, that these people did not accept the correction that Jesus was giving to them. And they decided to launch a counter attack on Jesus. And you know, the question was a very, very delicate and dangerous question. It put Jesus in a dilemma. Because if Jesus will say that paying tax to Rome is not good, if Jesus will say that, it means that Jesus will be considered as a seditious person. He will be arrested by the Roman government. And if Jesus will say, okay, pay the tax, then it means that his fellow Jews will launch hate on him. They will hate him. Because already the Jewish people were not comfortable paying the tax. Because paying the tax is a sort of, it's an insult to their religious belief, because they have only one king. And paying the tax that has the head of Caesar, paying that tax with that one denarius is automatically a loyalty, a submission to Caesar, which means that they were recognizing another God. Remember, the Jewish people were strictly monotheistic. And let's come back a little bit. There were three kinds of taxes. The first one is what we call the ground tax. That is, you give tax from what your land has produced. The vine, the oil, and all that. You can pay that in kind or in cash. Then you have the income tax. Everyone is expected to pay that, those who are working. This one that is contentious is the poll tax. From all those male from 14 to 65 years are expected to pay one denarius. And female from 12 to 65 are expected to pay this tax also to the Roman government. Remember that Palestine was occupied by the Romans at this time, which means that the Israelites were, or the Jews were basically under the leadership of Caesar. And the coin that Jesus asked, give me the coin had the head of Caesar. Because whenever a new Caesar comes, whenever a new king comes, he changes the coinage, he changes the money to to bear his own image, which means that that coin belonged to Caesar. And that's why Jesus basically asked them, give me the coin. Even Jesus did not have the coin. Imagine how poor Jesus was. Give me the coin. And when they gave Jesus the coin, he basically asked them one question. Whose image is this? They said Caesar. Okay, he said, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God. So this coin has the image of Caesar, so it belongs to Caesar. Give it to Caesar. Unfortunately, people usually misunderstand this saying of Jesus. This is not a rule, but it's a principle. And that is why it is evergreen. That Jesus laid a principle. Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give to God what belongs to God. Now think about this. Both Caesar and the coin belongs to who? To God. Because Caesar is the image of God. Every human being is the image of God. And you and I, we are all images of God. So what Jesus, by extension, was saying is saying to you and to me today is, give yourself to God. Give yourself whole and entire to God. If you look at our opening prayer today, it talks about the reconfiguration of our will so that it may conform to the will of God. It simply means give yourself to God, donate yourself to God, because we are all images of God. And again, the meaning of this saying of Jesus is that he invites us to be citizens of this world and also citizens of heaven. We must do what we must do as secular citizens, because as Christians, we have dual citizenship. In fact, being good citizens is a way of showing our Christian belief. We cannot say that we are truly Christians, yet we are breaking the secular rules. So for us to be true Christians, we must also be true citizens. We must do the right thing as citizens. That is the fact. So dear brothers and sisters, we are invited today to give ourselves to God. Give your mind to God. Give your soul to God. Give your body to God, because we are all images of God and we all belong to him. Caesar belongs to God. The presidents belong to God. The Pope, the bishop, the priest, the nuns, the catechists, all the lay people, all of us, we all belong to God. And as soon as we give ourselves to God and allow him to direct our thoughts, our words, our actions, then we shall experience the fullness of happiness. Happy Sunday to you. And I will tell God about you.